Hey guys, Hashem here. So the month of Ramadan is coming up, and for us Muslims, some of us train, and the big question is, can I train during Ramadan? How do I go about this? Am I going to lose my gains? Disclaimer before I start, or my mom will beat me up. This month is about spiritual gains, not muscular gains. Remember that, all right? So with that aside, let's get into it. With Ramadan, there's a couple of things that might happen, and I'm saying might because everyone does it differently. For example, some people flip their schedules and basically stay up until Fajr or study time, and then they wake around 4 p.m. Their Ramadan and their training and what happens to them is going to be a lot different than someone who has to wake up at 7 a.m. And go to work and then come home, and then it really depends on things. So I'm going to talk about the potential things that can happen, like basic concepts, and what to do about that. But really specific recommendations I won't be able to give. After I talk about the potential things to look out for, I'll talk about the best way to go about training in Ramadan. Okay, so one thing that might happen is caloric deficit. You're eating less calories. This is, I think, the most common thing that we think of, but it might not happen for everybody. Some people actually get fat during Ramadan, and they eat more calories. I don't know how they do that, but if you enter a caloric deficit, then we'll get into that. But this might not happen for everybody. Second thing, loss of sleep. Again, this might not happen for everybody. Some people, they still get their sleep, 7 to 9 hours of sleep. They don't lose out on sleep. But this is another potential thing that could happen. The last thing is bad nutrient timing, right? For example, when you're working out, you want to eat carbs around the workout window. You want to eat protein after the workout. You're not going to, that's for maximal gains in performance, but you're not going to be able to do that during Ramadan. And again, this is probably the smallest. These two are big. If these two happen, these are going to be big factors in your training. But anyway, if all three of these things happen, or even if one of them, you're going to have reduced ability to recover and adapt. So if you're getting less sleep, if you're low on calories, you're in a low energy state, you're not going to be able to recover and adapt from as much training. So, common sense thing, you're going to reduce your training. So that's basically the biggest thing. In Ramadan, you're just not going to be able to train as much. You just have to reduce your training volume, reduce your training intensity. And again, this is hard to give specifications because I don't know how much sleep you're losing. I don't know how deep in a caloric deficit you are. I don't know what your training volume is at already. I don't know what you're training for. So I can't really give specific recommendations. But just know, if you are in a caloric deficit, that by itself will reduce your ability to recover. You don't need all three of these. If you just have one of them, it reduces your ability to recover and adapt. This is the smallest one. This has the smallest magnitude of effect. These two are way bigger. So, if you're going from sleeping, 8 hours to 6 hours, you're going to have a big reduction in ability to recover and train. If you're going from, 2,500 calories to 1,700 calories, that's going to be really, really tough. So the best thing to do is to reduce training volume and intensity. And since I can't give any specific recommendations, what I would say is just judge it yourself. Think of when you're writing your training program and you're deciding how many times a week you're going to do it, look at it and be like, can I recover session to session? And you have to keep in mind, you're going to be low on sleep, you're going to be low on calories and food. So keep that in mind, will I be able to recover? These are, I don't think I'm forgetting anything, but I think these are basically the big impacts Ramadan has. The type of food you're eating does have a big effect on recovery and adaptations, like the macros and micros. But I don't think Ramadan affects that. If you're eating, basically the quantity of food decreases, but your quality of food, that's totally up to you. I don't think Ramadan affects that. All right, now let's talk about the best way to do this. Basically, we're gonna make Ramadan a cutting phase. Now, a big thing when you're doing this is you need fat to lose. Some of us don't have as much, fat as others. So if you don't have any fat, you're gonna lose muscle, and this won't work. So you need some fat. So probably the best thing to do is if you're not, you're generally a skinny person, is to have a 2 to 3 month bulking phase before Ramadan. That way, you'll get some fat. Anyway, so around 3,500 calories equals 1 pound, and the best way to do it, the guidelines say, is go 1 to 2 pounds per week. So just get a rough estimate and go between 500 calories to 1,000 calorie reduction per day. More than that, you risk losing a lot of muscle along the way, right? So go 1 to 2 pounds per week, which is about 3,500 calories for 1 pound. All right, special nutrient timing. So basically, when you wake up to eat at Sari and stuff, you want to make sure you eat things that will like take a long time to digest, right? And that won't make you feel hungry again. So like high glycemic carbs, like Hershey's chocolate bars or white bread, that stuff digests pretty quickly and makes you feel hungry again really quickly. Instead, you want to eat like whole grain bread, casein protein. That takes a long time. That's a very slow digesting protein. You don't want to drink whey. But yeah, you want to take these things that take a long time to digest that make you feel full for a long amount of time, because you're not going to be able to eat for a while. So at Sari, eat like whole grains, protein, things like that, right? And then when you break your fast, do the opposite. Eat like high glycemic carbs, eat the whey protein, like eat things that digest very quickly, because you need to eat a lot of food, right? Like you don't want to eat things that make you full for a while, because then you have to go to sleep in 2 to 3 hours, and then you didn't get to eat that much food. So you want to eat things that will digest quickly so you can eat a lot, right? So when you start your fast, eat things that take a long time to digest, that will make you feel full, which are low glycemic carbs and protein, specifically casein. And then when you open your fast and you break it, then eat all the fast digesting stuff that makes you feel hungry quicker. All right. Lastly, do hypertrophy training. This video is what exactly hypertrophy training is, and there's a lot you can probably Google on that, but it goes beyond the scope of this video. But the main purpose of hypertrophy training is you're not going to be making any gains in a caloric deficit. You won't be building any muscle mass unless you're a complete beginner. But what it does is it creates a stimulus to hold on to that muscle and to make sure that you're only losing fat. Because when you're in a caloric deficit, the big thing is losing fat versus losing muscle. If you're doing hypertrophy training while in a caloric deficit, almost certainly you'll be keeping as much muscle as possible and losing mostly fat. All right, and then try to optimize sleep. Again, this goes beyond the scope of this video, but try to get 7 to 9 hours, even 10. And then there's a lot of things you can do to improve the quality of sleep. And again, that goes beyond this video, but for example, the temperature, make sure it's complete darkness and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, the biggest thing in Ramadan is you're gonna be in a caloric deficit. Usually you can't avoid that. So just make it a cutting phase. That's all you do. And then just go about it the right way. Take the deficit, accept the deficit, just make sure the deficit is cutting away fat. All right, guys, that is it. Have a very blessed Ramadan, and yeah, that's it. If you liked the video, throw me a like, subscribe. Any feedback is appreciated. All right, thanks, guys.